Hello and welcome to the Practice Perfect podcast. We are back. I want to introduce our amazing co-host, Maya Turner, and I am, of course, your host, Jennifer McNamara. Welcome to the show.
Yay! We are back. We are back after a short break. We've been so busy.
I know, and then I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks for conference season. So our next episode isn't going to be until the 17th of September, but we're going to be giving you all kinds of great previews and also some historical episodes you might have missed in the past that will be airing. So stay tuned for that. If you missed some of our good episodes in the past, we'll be giving you some more of that history that you love. Now, I am just really excited because I know this is the end of August almost, and it's going to be heading into fall. Today, I went through the drive-thru at Starbucks, and guess what they had? They had pumpkin
Pumpkin.
spice.
Yes, I had my pumpkin spice latte yesterday, girl. Yes. Pumpkin is, and you know what? I was never, ever, like looking forward to the pumpkin spice, but man, that gives me life. Like I'm not into the pumpkin
Doesn't it?
desserts, but man, it's
Yeah,
everything.
I mean, it just kind of wakes up your senses and it reminds you that fall is almost here.
Man. I don't even want to acknowledge that fall is almost here because that has to indicate that one summer is over, almost over. Um, because I still want to get in my pool, right? Because I haven't, I
Yeah.
missed a couple of weeks at the beginning of this summer to get in my pool because my liner had to be reset, and now, you know, but it's still okay. It's okay because we have a heater, so we could still work it. We could still work it. So
Yeah, and I'm in the South, so it's obviously unpredictable. And summer lasts a lot longer here than in other areas. And I know even I think I went camping in October last year, and I was able to get on the lake and use my paddleboard in like late October. So I'm hoping that
oh,
I
that's
can do that
nice.
again this year. So hopefully. But we're in 2025, and before we know it, like we're already past the halfway point, right? So it's like, is it over? It's
Yes.
kind of on its way out already, it feels like. And so I want to talk about this because 2025 was a pivotal year for so many things. So many things happened this year. But and what we're seeing, the payers, I'm not going to talk smack, but we understand the payers are the payers, and we're not here to attack anyone that works at a payer. We
No.
know you work very, very hard at your job, and you just, like anybody else who works for any other organization, you can't always control the policies and how things are conducted, right? But think about, if you've been in the industry long enough, like Maya and I have, you've seen some things happen and you've seen some crazy stuff. And we call this same old games that we see played are still happening in 2025.
I don't know. I don't
Now,
know if the payers got the memo on that one, girl. I don't know. Cause that signal one, I'm
yeah.
still scratching my head. I don't know. It's insane.
hmm So I wanted to announce, and I don't often do this, but I feel like it's necessary because there are still so many things going wrong and a lot of misconceptions out there. So coming this fall, we are going to put out a webinar, a free webinar. This is not going to have CEUs. It's just going to be informational, educational. We hope you'll still attend. It's free. And you can, of course, ask questions. And if you want to earn CEUs, we have additional education opportunities that we'll mention at that particular webinar that you can only get access to if you attend the free webinar. So again, we want you to take advantage of our education, but we want you to come to us because we are the experts. So we'll be announcing that on our LinkedIn page, Healthcare Inspired LLC, Facebook, and of course, if you subscribe to our newsletter, it'll be in our next newsletter. So stay tuned for that. Now, we understand this terminology of this ping pong effect that is a thing, right? You send requests, or you get a request right from the payer to send them something. You send it back. You wait and wait. Then they send something back and says, we need this now. And you send it back. And this goes back and forth, right? And a lot of times it has to do with the fact that the person you're talking to doesn't have all the information, or they maybe weren't trained well enough and didn't know where to look to give you an accurate information that you need to, move forward. This goes back and forth for months. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, and then someone says, oh, it's past timely. And you got to stop and you got to think, is this really past timely, or is the person I'm talking to not informed enough to understand their own policies? And this happens so many times. It's been happening to us lately with clients. And it's just, I think there's a disconnect on both sides because both sides don't understand what their rights are.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really interesting. And without getting on a soapbox, having a my and ease moment, um, I'll just say that there is lack of education on both sides.
Mhm.
And I really do think that payers, just as well as providers, I think they're both flying blindly, right? Especially with this ping pong thing that you're talking about. And um, in the contract, in most contracts, there is a compliance clause, right? But if the provider is flying in blind and the payer is flying in blind on these things regarding the pre-authorization, and you submit everything, it gets approved, and then it still gets denied, right? And then it's very frustrating. And at the end of the day, you have to know better to do better, right? So the
Mhm.
providers need to invest in themselves and their staff for them to know better, for them to have a better return. The payer, on the other hand, can't always weaponize, like we used that term before, for payments
Mhm.
when they come to get pre-authorized or whatever. It becomes so what's the word, counterproductive for everybody, because who's spinning their wheels? Both parties are, and nothing is getting accomplished. People are spending money on labor and costs and all of that, and still not getting a return on it. So it's really frustrating.
Yes, and I think that there's a lot to be said about, obviously we talk about education, but I scream from the rooftops about communication. There's a lot of people in a lot of organizations that don't know how to communicate, and I've seen it where you have somebody who has information, the provider needs it, but I'm telling you what, they're scared to talk to the provider. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this information is important. You're not going to get your claim paid or get your authorization approved unless you talk to the provider. So it's a culture issue, 100%. If your front office staff or your billing staff is too intimidated to ask for information from a physician, you have a culture problem.
Yep.
And so that needs to be fixed first, because if the people in your organization are not comfortable talking to each other, you got to fix it, because this is one of your biggest problems, and I have seen it over and over and over.
You know what? And I also say this, and let's even explore this, Jen. Now, I have had experience working for a payer, right? I've had experience working for a payer, right? But let's talk about the culture and the insurance companies. Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they could be siloed too now. They can.
Yep.
And so when you have communication problem breakdowns on both sides, right? And you don't have the tracking systems, you don't have the streamlining process that create fluidity for claim processing. Then you have the breakdown of communication of the office, who is not communicating with the physician, who doesn't understand revenue cycle management. So you got both sides flying blindly, needing education, and nothing is out there. And I almost feel like, and I'm going to say this, and this is a Mayanism, I do believe, or Mayanese, right? I'm adopting Kim's methodology here, but there needs to be a mandate for fluidity and claims processing, just like the AMA is going to start, or trying to start, that pre-authorization process. So I think there is an opportunity for all of us to learn, right, from each other by um, proposing, no, no, what I'm saying, what's what I'm looking for mm, endorsing better processing systems on the payer side, because that's what's lacking. If it's wrong, and they don't care. And then how many times has anyone seen where there has been a mass reprocessing because something was processed wrong? I'm just saying, Jen. I'm just
Mhm.
saying.
Right. And so, okay. So I want to shout out to Sean Weiss real quick because I think it was yesterday that he posted something and he starts out by saying, I cannot make this stuff up. And it's true. Some of the things that we hear and we see, you just can't make it up. It's just like, what? So we know that AI exists out there. We know that it's being used by payers. But unfortunately, there are some areas where it's being used that are not in accordance with regulations, even now. So even within your state laws and obviously your contracts and what the government, is saying is legit, watch for those things. If you're seeing, consistent denials across the board and it's maybe evident to you that they're incorrect, they might be using a methodology that is incorrect and they're basically not following their own laws. So again, you need to understand what your rights are as a provider. And of course, if you are going to pay her, you also need to make sure you're being transparent with the organizations and what your policies are. Now, most insurance companies do house their policies in an easy to find way. It just sometimes maybe people don't know where to find them because they weren't trained properly. Most of the time, I can find a policy in any website.
Yeah,
Like,
you
I don't have a
should.
problem with that myself because I was trained. I know exactly what I'm
Right.
looking for. Not everybody does. So it's not the payer's fault, guys. It's your supervisor or someone who is in charge of making sure you know what you're doing. But
Uh-oh.
take the onus, as Kim would say. If you don't feel like you're getting the proper training, train yourself.
Woo.
I was interviewing someone today that we're thinking about bringing on the organization. And I was just talking about my historical, how I came in the industry, right? So this is just interesting. So I was a receptionist to start. I worked my way up and I decided to join the billing department of the hospital. Got in there to be charge entry. That's how I worked my way up. I would look at denials and I saw a lot of things. And then it wasn't until I applied to be in the coding department once I got certified that I started to kind of see how this works, right? But then I went and I worked my way into my first official coding position. I applied for a job and I thought I was underqualified. I thought I was like not good enough to be a coder yet because I just got certified. So I went for like a revenue cycle job because I knew that. And I was interviewing with the lady and she was like, you're overqualified for this. Why did you apply for this? You're a coder. And so it was like the first time I like really like thought about that. I'm like, someone saw that in me, like they thought that was a big deal, right? And so they're like, my manager friend across the hall here, she's looking for a certified coder. And so I'm going to introduce you so you can meet with her. And that's how I got into ortho. Like literally, I walked into ortho just like that. They hired me like that day. But I was looking at it and I had to really teach myself because they had a lot of faith in me because I had a credential, but I didn't have a lot of faith in myself. And so I had to teach myself a lot of things. It was like sink or swim. You made mistakes and you figure it out. And so when I got denials, I would figure out what the problem was and I would write it
Yeah.
down. I would make a list. This is
Hmm.
why this denied. And then I would start learning. So, and we had like this little booklet that the previous person had left before they left that was really helpful. And it literally had a big report. This was back when you still use paper a lot. And it had all the
Yeah.
codes on it. And if an assist was allowed, because they had an assistant in the office, a PA. So I learned about that stuff. Like that was stuff I never really knew about. I mean, I knew about it because I would build them out, but I didn't know the ins and outs of why and what codes you can bill for an assist and when you can't. So
Yeah.
that what taught me so much. And I
Hmm.
just
Hmm. Hmm.
kept digging and digging and digging. So I didn't always know there was a policy on something until it was brought to my attention. But then once I knew that was a thing, I always made sure I read a policy. And
Yeah.
when I was learning how to talk to physicians, there were times I was new, I was green, I didn't really know how to approach them. And so then they were really gracious to let me know that they don't really know what I think they know. So the doctor I was talking to, he's so funny. He's like, Jennifer, he's like, you got to talk to me like I'm a kindergartner because I really don't think you think I know things, but I don't know. So I just love him. It's my first surgeon, Dr. Heim. He was just so amazing. So I just love him. Anyway, so he was real with me, right? And he was a surgeon that let me go in the OR with him and like watch a
Oh,
surgery. I got
yeah.
to scrub in. Like that was the coolest experience ever.
Oh,
But
wow.
working for an organization that trusts coders and really was helping them advance their own knowledge, like I really dug it. I really just absorbed that. And you may not have that. And some of the denials you're getting might be because you don't have a good culture that is letting you thrive and you feel intimidated. You don't feel like you have the resources that you need to grow. So I'm just admonishing organizations, please let your physicians and your coders talk. Please let them communicate because that is what is wrong with your denials. A lot of them is the massive disconnect, the gap that is getting wider and wider in these offices. I'm seeing it so much.
And I want to admonish the coders and the revenue cycle professionals out there, right? If you feel that you're not getting enough training, take the onus and find the investment in yourself. Just like you took the time to get training or find the materials to become a coder, find the training and the materials for you to stay relevant, right? It's about staying relevant. You're called a professional coder for a reason. And because you're a professional coder, you need to find the resources that make you stand out. Period.
Yes.
And because that's important for us as an industry, it should be important to you as a coder.
Right. Don't think of it as just a job, 9 to 5, 8 to 5, 7 to 3. I don't know what you work, and just come into work, clock in, and leave,
10
and
to
go
7.
home. And yeah, so I mean, I never thought of it that way. I was just thinking like this is a really necessary service that I'm providing in our communities, and I want it to do it right and do it justice. And so, unfortunately, and I'm going to get my soapbox for Maya. Yesterday or this week, we were supposed to have somebody we hired start work. And we were really excited about it because they had experience on paper. Really excited. Didn't show up to orientation, didn't show up the next day, no communication. We tried to get that from them, give them a little grace. We didn't get their paperwork in time. So we thought we'll just meet with them, see what's going on. Crickets. Finally, we reached out again, and they took another job and didn't tell us. What I had spent already on this person was obviously my time invested in the resources that we had to pull for this person, requesting EMR access, paying for an email. It costs money to provide email through Outlook, other resources that we had to use. And so, again, it's like sometimes there are people out there who just want a job and they don't really care about the success of the organization. They're just trying to fly through and get their job. And I guess that's the way they live their lives. But what we want our industry to have is people who are invested. And if you're going to hire somebody that is going to own your revenue, believe me, some physicians out there don't know what their revenue cycle people are doing. They have no idea. So try to, I guess, what's the word? Try to take ownership of your staff and know what they're doing. And I know you're
Mhm.
busy as a physician. If you're a physician on practice and you have a lot going on, you need to be able to trust the people that are working with you and touching your money, that have access to your NPI and are representing you on a claim. Please make sure you know that you can trust them and that they know what they're doing, because I'm telling you, there's dollars hemorrhaging from your organization. We know this for a fact because we are helping organizations right now where previous staff that they were using in a billing sense hemorrhage dollars, and they had no idea what's going on. They waited for the billing company, which their job to do, by the way, to tell them where the revenue was, but they kept having to go to the billing company and asking them where the revenue was.
And it should
Okay?
never be that way. Your
No.
billing company should be sending the provider who's paying for their services to send reports. If it's the other way around, it's the wrong way. And I guarantee you, you don't have money that you're supposed to have because of that reason. I'm just
Yes,
saying.
and this episode is all about payer games, which we know, but those games are going to keep going regardless of what you do. So you need staff that knows how to play the game.
Yep. And I think also, I think it's important. I mean, going back to the professionalism and things like that as a coder, you know, you never know when you're going to cross a bridge. right? And that's a difference between having a job and being a professional, right? If
Yes.
you have a job, that's as far as you're going to go. But if you take that job and become a professional when it comes to that revenue cycle, understanding payers, investing in yourself, understanding what some of the key elements that are going to change for the current year and knowing when the final rule comes out, knowing new codes, right? All of that is relevant and it should be, and you should be able to understand those payer games that comes out. So I think it's important for us as an industry, as an organizational structures, to invest in your coders, understand some of the payer games that are happening, but also make sure that your staff is educated to understand what the payers are supposed to do versus what they're not doing. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there.
Exactly. And Medicare routinely, it's our MAC, Novitas,
Uh
they
oh.
routinely put out their top denials. They're telling us on a silver platter, these are the top denials we're getting that we still keep getting over and over again, despite our education outreach. Now, Medicare's, I mean, I'm going to say it, they're excellent at providing resources and education because they want you to give them what they're asking for. And so, I mean, like, and most payers do. I'm going to get on my soapbox again for Cigna because I don't always like the games they play, but this new downcoding thing, it's based off of historical data that they have evidence of. They're not getting accurate documentation. So
Yeah.
I'm on their side when it comes to what they're getting or not getting. And I don't think it's fair
No.
necessarily to do this, but I understand why they feel they are pushed to that point. So don't be the reason that they have
Yeah.
to do something like this. Don't
Yeah.
be the
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. And I
Tighten up
mean, in
your
this,
documentation.
yeah, I mean, and I think I responded to that post that you made. But just like I said, when it comes to the provider and lacking documentation, I also think it's important for the payer to be current with
Mm-hmm.
the payer structure and the documentation structure, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of times if their systems are outdated or if they're
Yep.
using a wrong benchmarking system, then that data can be skewed, right? And the benchmarking data can be off. But also the payers need to invest in their employees to stay relevant for their policies. Because how many times have you talked to a customer service representative and they didn't even know what their policies were, or they told you something
Mm-hmm.
that was wrong? So I think it's dual sided. I do agree
Oh,
that there's
absolutely.
a reason. I think it's dual sided, but I do think that there's a time for us to really kind of engage on communication and education on both sides.
Yes, exactly. And here's the deal, guys. You take the insurance, you went into a contract, so you really have no say necessarily in the process because you're under a contract. I'm going to be honest here. It's like going to any other contract, right? I have made mistakes myself in signing contracts because I didn't read the fine print, but I still knew I had to follow through with it. So if you go through and you sign on the dotted line without reading it and understanding your responsibilities, you are saying that I am going to follow your policies. Now, you don't have to stay with that insurance company. You don't have to sign with them. You can stay out of network. It's not always great for the patient, but you have options. So don't blame the payer when they decide to make a policy you are in contract with, you're agreeing to their policies now or in the future if you want
Yeah.
to do business with them. You don't have to do business with them. It's a
Nope.
business, guys. That's what it is. So I'll give you a little story. Like back in the day, I worked for a company who signed a contract with a provider to provide billing services. Unfortunately, the person who agreed to this didn't understand how cheap they were making this contract. Okay. The CEO of the company wasn't very happy. So we had a mix between, out of country people versus, the United States. And the United States people, obviously, we cost more. I understand that. But at the end of the day, it was really sad because the provider was the one that suffered because it was more important for them not to lose money on a contract that they messed up and made the provider suffer by not giving them the resources that they needed, right? So the service was very poor. They weren't allowing me to do my job, and because I cost too much. And that's a sad story because the client is the one that suffered. the provider suffered. They're doing great now, you know. I mean, I still follow some of these people that I helped in the past to see how they're thriving since I'm no longer with that company, because I wish I could have done more, but I couldn't at the time.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I feel really bad that there's some organizations that make their clients suffer because they don't read their contracts or they don't understand the true cost of what they're offering, and they're not transparent with their clients. So when you sign a contract, know the fine print, know your responsibilities and each party's responsibilities, and know what you can and cannot do, but also know what you can get, what you can fight. There are a lot of clauses in there you can fight according to state laws when they violate
Yeah.
state laws. So
Yeah.
pay attention to that. Now, another thing that they do, silent fee schedule changes. So without notice.
Yep.
So I mean, that's a
Mm.
little tricky, right? Now, I say silent because they don't announce it publicly, but it's available to you to find if you're being, you know, cognizant, if you know that exists. So you can monitor contracts. You can watch underpayments. There's technology that helps you watch if they're underpaying you um, according to your contract rate. Now, they can change a fee schedule all day long, but if you have a contracted rate already fixed,
They
you should
can't change
be
it.
watching that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So be cognizant of what your fee schedule is. Use technology where appropriate. We have some great vendors that we work with that we personally trust that we can recommend to you if you reach out to us. Because you know, people usually reach out to us to help them find software. We just hooked up one of our new clients with ECW plug because I love ECW. I will plug them all day, every day, and twice on
Yes.
Sunday. I love ECW. So if you're struggling with EMRs, let me know because I got a great rep for you guys. She's amazing and she gets things done and gets the providers a really great rate for their service. So please reach out to us. Now, you want to stay ahead, right? You want to make sure you're looking at trends, spotting trends. If you're seeing the same payer making the same mistakes over and over again, you got a problem. Are you
Yeah.
tracking the consistency or inconsistencies of your payers with your KPIs? Are you doing internal audits to see, is it me or is it them?
Yeah. 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 I'll also say this. Um, going back to the point that you made about the contracts and things of that nature. If you don't understand something, especially with contracts, find somebody who does before you sign
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
do not sign a receipt on something that they're charging you and you don't understand what they're charging you for. Because at the end of the day, that receipt is a transaction that shows that you were, involved with services, right? It's no different than a contract. Pay or ask someone who knows better. And if you don't know better, don't sign
Mm-hmm.
because you're signing stuff because we got to get this going. We got to get this going. No, no, there's no such thing as when you don't understanding that there's a rush. And if they don't give you somebody who understands, then you get a lawyer or somebody who can understand the contract for you. That's all I
Exactly.
got to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, and you can build a knowledge base of your payers, and you know, get to know what policies affect your code set. I mean, I work in ortho mostly. Most of our clients are orthopedics, pain management, podiatry because that's what we're good at. That's our specialty. We have others as well. Maya works on the primary care behavioral health side. So again, we have resources for you, but build your own knowledge base. Start collecting resources. And I don't like to say cheat sheet. Shout out to Terry Fletcher. I agree with you. I don't like that term cheat sheet. We're not trying to cheat anybody, but a knowledge base reference, you know, references that you can build for your team. And just think about what your data is telling you. You know, it's the revenue that keeps you open. And we want you to focus on taking care of your patients. So whatever you can do to streamline things with technology, and you know, next month we have our special webinar where I have a special guest from a really great AI company that we trust that we've been working with, and they are legit, you guys. Like they know AI. And when I talk to people who claim to know AI, it's going to be fascinating when you talk to this girl because she's a boss when it comes to true AI technology. The difference between an API connection and actual AI, right? And so understanding when you sign the dotted line to get a software, even what you're actually signing, and you understand the technology. And so there's a lot of great things out there that can make you efficient, but make sure, even with those kind of contracts, those kind of agreements, that you're not signing up for things that are going to hurt you versus help you.
Yeah, and I always say that AI should augment. It should never automate.
Yes.
And so when we think about the term augmentation, augmentation is an enhancement of what's already being done, whereas automated replaces what's being done. And so I think when we're dealing with that from an AI perspective, we have to make sure that we understand the tool, what it should be doing, and how it relates to how you can use it. A mechanic doesn't buy a tool that they can't use. So should you. You should
Mm-hmm.
not buy a tool that you don't know how to use. So when we think about AI and those types of things, we have to think about what the tool is and what it should be used for and how it can be the best efficiency for the practice.
Exactly. So stay tuned, guys, for more episodes in a couple of weeks when we get back from our conference life. And our next episode on September 17th is the questions we wish more practices would ask. And all the time I'm thinking, why didn't they ask that question to begin with? Why didn't they ask that question before they did this? It's scratching my head. Yeah. So again, it's going to be an excellent episode. Stay tuned for that. A lot of things coming your way. If you're not subscribed, check out healthcareinspirellc.com. We have some great conferences still coming. We have our evaluation and management symposium, October 17th and 18th, virtual. We have our compliance seminar on December 12th. And we just added our otolaryngology ENT Connect conference virtual that you know and love, March 19th and 20th. So check out our website. More to come. Thank you for joining as always. And remember to always be compliant and to contact us if you have any questions.